This story is titled, My Stepmother Tried to Steal My Inheritance, so I Outsmarted Her and Took Everything Back. My name is Rachel, and I'm 27 years old. I grew up in a loving home with my father, who was my rock, my best friend, and my biggest supporter. My mother passed away when I was very young, so it had always been just the two of us. He was the kind of dad who never let me feel alone, who made sure I knew I was loved every single day. He worked hard to provide for us, and over the years, he built up a successful business that he always said would be mine one day. But then, everything changed. When I was 21, my father remarried a woman named Linda. She was charming at first, always smiling, always sweet, at least when my dad was around. But something about her felt off. She was too interested in our finances, too eager to discuss what my father owned. At first, I thought I was being paranoid. I wanted to believe that she loved my dad, that she wasn't just with him for his money. But deep down, I had my doubts. And then, the worst happened. My father passed away unexpectedly when I was 25. It was devastating. He was my entire world, and just like that, he was gone. But in the midst of my grief, I had no idea that I was about to face a battle I never saw coming. Linda wasted no time. Within days of the funeral, she started acting like everything my father owned was hers. She moved his things out of our house, my house, without asking me. She started talking about selling the business, the house, even my dad's car. She had no right, and I knew it. My father had always been clear. Everything he built was meant for me. He had even made sure to set up a will, one that left the majority of his assets to me. But when I went to see the lawyer, my stomach dropped. The will was missing. Not just missing. Gone. The lawyer swore my father had given him a copy, but when he went to retrieve it, it wasn't there. Instead, there was a new will, one that conveniently left almost everything to Linda. I couldn't believe it. This woman had stolen my father's legacy right out from under me. And that's when I knew. I wasn't just grieving anymore. I was at war. I started digging. I refused to believe that my father would ever change his will like that. He had always been meticulous with his finances. He always kept backups of important documents. If Linda thought she could just erase me from my own father's life, she had another thing coming. I tore through every drawer, every file, every document in the house. I checked his office, his safe, even his old emails. And finally, after hours of searching, I found something. A flash drive. My heart pounded as I plugged it into my laptop, and what I found made my blood run cold. There it was, my father's real will. The one that left everything to me. The one that proved Linda was a liar and a thief. But that wasn't all. There were emails between Linda and someone else, discussing how to replace the will, how to forge my father's signature, how to make sure I never got a dime. I had everything I needed. But I knew I had to be smart. Linda was calculating, manipulative. If I confronted her too soon, she might find a way to twist the situation. I needed a plan. I needed to outsmart her, and I knew exactly how to do it. I didn't sleep that night. My mind was racing, going over every possible way this could play out. I had the proof, but I needed to be strategic. If Linda had gone to the trouble of forging a will, she wasn't going to back down easily. She was going to fight, and I had to make sure I was ready for it. The next morning, I made my first move. I went straight to my father's lawyer and showed him what I had found. His face went pale as he scrolled through the documents on the flash drive. This is serious," he muttered, shaking his head. "If this is real, then Linda could be in major legal trouble." "It's real," I said firmly. "And I want to fight this. I want my father's real wishes honored." He nodded. "Then we'll take this to court. But first, we need to make sure this holds up. We need forensic analysis on these emails, a handwriting expert to confirm the forgery. This won't be easy." I knew that. I knew it was going to take time. But I was ready. The hardest part was pretending everything was normal. I had to live under the same roof as Linda, watching her act like she had won, like she had erased me from my father's legacy. She started making plans to sell the house, talking about moving to a bigger, better place. She even started going through my father's belongings, deciding what to keep and what to throw away. I had never hated anyone more in my life. But I kept my composure. I needed her to think she had won. Then, 2 weeks later, the lawsuit was filed. Linda was served the papers while she was having lunch with a few of her friends. I wasn't there, but I heard about it. The way her face drained of color, the way she stammered, trying to understand how I had turned the tables on her. When she stormed into the house that night, her rage was barely contained. "You ungrateful little brat," she hissed. "You think you can take me down?" I stood my ground. I don't think. I know. She laughed, but there was a nervous edge to it. You have nothing. The will is legal. Everything is mine now. I tilted my head, feigning innocence. Oh? Then why are you so scared? Her eyes darkened. I'm not scared. Good, I said, smiling. Then you won't mind proving in court that my father actually signed that will, or explaining those emails about how you forged his signature. She went still, and in that moment, I knew she realized she had lost. But I wasn't done yet. The legal battle lasted for months. Linda tried every trick in the book. She hired expensive lawyers, tried to discredit me, even attempted to claim that my father had promised her everything in private. But the evidence was too strong. The forensic experts confirmed that the new will was forged. The emails traced back to Linda's own computer. The handwriting analysis was undeniable. When the judge ruled in my favor, it was the sweetest victory of my life. But I wasn't just going to take back what was mine. I was going to make sure Linda paid for what she did. Linda wasn't just defeated, she was exposed. The court not only ruled that my father's original will was valid, but they also charged Linda with fraud and forgery. It was a criminal offense, and she knew it. She tried to play the victim in court, crying and acting as if she had no idea how the will had been altered. But the evidence was overwhelming. Her emails, the expert testimonies, even the lawyer she had used to sneak the fake will into the system, it all pointed directly to her. The judge didn't hold back. Not only was the fraudulent will thrown out, but Linda was ordered to pay back every single dollar she had taken from my father's estate. The business, the house, the bank accounts, everything reverted back to me, just as my father had intended. And Linda? She was facing serious legal consequences. She tried to negotiate a deal, hoping to avoid jail time. But there was no escaping what she had done. In the end, she was convicted of fraud and sentenced to prison. It wasn't a long sentence, just a couple of years, but it was enough. Enough for her to lose everything she had tried to steal from me. But the best part? She thought she could just walk away and start over once she got out. But I made sure that wasn't going to happen. While she was behind bars, I went after her financially. I filed a separate civil lawsuit against her for emotional distress and damages. She had put me through hell, and I wasn't going to let her walk away without consequences. By the time everything was settled, she had nothing left. No money, no home, no power over me. I had won. But it wasn't just about the money or the house. It was about justice. I knew my father would have been proud of me for standing up for myself, for protecting what he had built. Linda had tried to erase me from my own father's life, but in the end, she was the one who lost everything. And as I stood in my father's house, my house, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't felt in a long time. She was gone, and I had taken back everything that was rightfully mine. After everything was settled, I took a deep breath and finally allowed myself to grieve properly. My father had worked his entire life to build something meaningful, something he wanted me to have. And for a while I had been terrified that Linda would destroy all of it. But she didn't. She couldn't. Because in the end, truth won. I made sure to honor my father's legacy. I kept his business running, just as he had always dreamed. I even expanded it, making it more successful than ever. Every decision I made, I did with him in mind, knowing he would have wanted me to fight for what was right. As for Linda, she was nothing more than a bad memory now. After her release from prison, she tried reaching out to me. First, she sent me letters, long, rambling apologies that meant nothing. Then she tried calling, begging for money, for a second chance. She even had the audacity to ask if I'd let her move back in. I ignored every attempt. She had made her choice when she forged that will, when she tried to steal everything my father left for me. And now, she had to live with the consequences. Justice had been served, and I had taken back everything that was mine. If there's one thing I learned from this, it's that you can't let people walk all over you. Not even family. Some people will do anything for money, but if you stand your ground and fight back, the truth will always come out in the end. And as for me, I'm finally at peace, knowing my father's legacy is in the right hands. Mine. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Have you ever had to fight for something that was rightfully yours? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts.